So we have game three today, and this is going to be very interesting. Honestly, let me say something before we start. I believe that this series is won by Denver already. I'm sorry, but I don't think Miami could win this championship. I'm a Miami fan, but it's very hard for me to convince. But it's very hard for me to convince myself, you know. But with that being said, I do believe that they can be interesting though. Like the thing is that with Miami is that I just believe that their depth, the way that their team is structured, and their story is way too historical. It's way too far out, and they just don't have the resources to beat Denver four times, in my opinion. Like I'm happy that they won this one game, game two. It was awesome, but I do believe that eventually they will flame out because let's face it, Bam is gonna have a bad game, and Jimmy just doesn't look like himself. It looks like after the first two rounds, he just went to sleep. You know, I believe in my. I just, uh, I just believe that Jimmy has been playing good enough to win, but not good enough to be like phenomenal. You know, but in my opinion, what needs to happen is that Jimmy needs to have a game, right? He needs to have that one Jimmy game in this series, and then maybe I could believe that they could win. If that's tonight in Miami, if that's tomorrow, that's in Denver. But you know, one of those games where he just looks like the best player on the planet, he gets everything that he wants, and they win the game. In my opinion, there needs to be a shift in pace in this series and in belief because Denver looks very comfortable right now. They look like even though they lost, they're not stressing. You know, Miami looks very tense. They look like, oh, we won one, yay! Please, let's win another one. Denver looks like extremely planned out, extremely thoughtful. And they look like even if they lost, you know, they still have a plan. You know, I don't believe that anyone believes that Miami could actually win this series. You know, I believe people can. People have said it that Denver already won, right? Like that was a big thing that people said before this series started. And going into Game Three, I believe we have three major things that we need to talk about when it comes to this game. The first is the Nuggets offensive sets. Look, it's obvious that the strategy for Miami is going to be to limit one of the two guys. It's either going to be Nikola Jokic or Jamal Murray, which they're trying to stop, right? And this is due to the fact that when they're both hitting, it's basically impossible because since both of them, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, are so good at involving their team but getting their own looks too, you have to you know, it's so hard to you know to make those shots and to win those games when Jamal Murray is dropping 30 and when Nikola Jokic is dropping a triple double. That them having to slow down one of the two is important because as soon as those two guys get fired up, you know, everyone gets fired up with them. Then after that, I also have to say that on the second thing, it's Miami's offense. Let's face it, Denver does a great job at guarding Miami, right? Miami just has a lot of adjustments, like a lot, and I mean a lot of adjustments. And that basically messes with Denver because they make adjustments on the like right there, right? Like Denver changes something, Miami will literally just counteract it right there. And even though that's awesome and it's very good, in my opinion, that could also cause the offense to sometimes be stagnant because if Denver's giving Miami a play that doesn't work for them consistently, then Denver could abuse that and make Miami have forced offense even if they don't want to, you know? And in my opinion, the third thing is just Jimmy Butler. You know, yes, you win and you lose with Jimmy Butler, right? And he's definitely been good and he's been awesome in these playoffs. It doesn't matter what you say or how he's been playing, he's been phenomenal. right? He's had many phenomenal games. He's hit all the clutch shots. Like even when he's not doing that well or when he's doing mid, he's still hitting the clutch shots. Like last game where he hit that really smooth jumper to put Miami up 8. I think it was in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left or something like that. And in my opinion, the big question for this series is, and for Game 3 especially, is what is Jimmy Butler going to do? You know, what version of Jimmy Butler is Miami getting? Because you're in Miami, you get that crowd, you get that energy, and how Kyle Lowry said the other day, he said it in the press conference after the game where he was like, when it gets going in Miami, it feels like a party in there. And you know that those vibes are immaculate, and especially for a team who's winning, they want to feel all that love. They want to feel like they're in a party, like they all that energy, all that happiness. It just helps them win. So, in my opinion, if we're really talking, it's what version of Jimmy Butler do we get today? You know, what are we looking at? What are we seeing? And how is that version going to perform with the defensive sets that Denver is throwing at them? You know, we could talk a lot about Denver's defense and how smart it is and how they've managed to hide Jokic on the defensive end completely. But instead of talking about that, let's talk about what they don't do well, which is guard small forwards and wings and stuff like that. So when we're talking about Denver, are they going to put all that focus on Jimmy like they did in Game 1? Or are they going to try to focus more on Miami's guard play, which killed them last game, especially they got like Duncan Robinson? In my opinion, all these questions are going to be answered tonight. But the biggest thing to say is what, and this is like really the deciding factor of the entire game, and it's who is hitting their shots. It does not matter the coaching. It does not matter how well an individual plays. It does not matter even the defensive sets. It's who is shooting better. Let's face it, both of these teams are very reliant on threes. Like, both of them can get their offense through the two-pointer. But these teams win when they're hitting big threes, right? Like, Miami has a tendency of either going extremely cold from three or just torching you from there, right? Like they did last game where they shot 49% against Denver. And in my opinion, you live and you die by the three. So some days Miami's gonna revive and they're gonna live and they're gonna be awesome, but some games they might flame out. So, and Denver too, because even though Denver can get a lot of 2-point offense, those threes by Jamal Murray and KCP and Aaron Gordon, all of that creates a momentum for the team, and it creates a mental momentum which really influences the game and has this entire playoffs and has influenced it for forever. Like whenever a team is just hitting all of their shots, it's easy. It's like when LeBron was in Cleveland and they hit like 25 threes against the Atlanta Hawks in one game. No, they hit like 50 threes or something like that. No. It wasn't that many, but it was like 30 to 40 threes in a game. And it was like the more threes that they hit, the more they built on that momentum, and in the end they had the most threes in a playoff game as a team of all time. So in my opinion, it's who is going to hit their shots and who is going to hit those shots effectively, right? In the end, though, that's my analysis, and I could talk however much I want, but if we're being honest, I'm just excited for the game. You know, like it's in Miami, and Miami has home court advantage. And really, if we look at this series from afar, then we might be looking at a legendary game right here, right? Like that, those first two games were really important, but let's face it, this third game could influence the entirety of how the series goes, right? And that game 4, which I believe is on Sunday, is also really going to influence this series. So let's see what happens with this series. Let's see how it progresses, and let's see who hits their shots and who wins this game. whoever wins this game is probably going to win the next one after that. And let's see if Denver can steal the game at home in Miami. So yeah, let's see what happens. And I hope you enjoyed this video.